Combat Sports Talk, a podcast dedicated to UFC and Bellator discussion, the MMA community, and combat sports in general. I'm your host, Ryan Smith, and joining me on air this week is the walking encyclopedia for MMA, Mr. John Keys. How are you today, sir?
Man, I am fantastic. How are you, man?
I am amazing. I am coming to you live from Georgetown, Texas. I am visiting a Keep Texas Beautiful conference as part of my service to Keep Allen Beautiful, where I'm a board member. So I'm coming to you in a necktie and sport coat.
Whoa, man, you're trying to be professional now.
Oh, yeah. This is a professional podcast. I got to look the part even though it's all audio.
Oh, yes, exactly.
All right. Well, the Windy City of Chicago hosted UFC 225, an amazing card complete with a fighter looking for redemption, a fighter looking to prove a point, and a fighter looking to avenge a prior loss. These storylines gave us all a reason to watch, and the action in the ring delivered exciting fights loaded with controversy.
All I can say is that blood makes the grass grow, and the grass grew in the Windy City.
Yeah.
Okay. It was phenomenal card. Phenomenal.
That's right. But instead of speaking in riddles, let's recap all the UFC 225 action with the official decision. The official decision. Welcome to the official decision, a segment where we recap the action at UFC 225 in Chicago, Illinois, where it was Whittaker versus Romero 2 at the United Center, the place that I like to say is the house that Jordan built.
I'm not going to touch that. I can't even deny it. It is the house he built. I mean, but this is not a basketball podcast. This is an MMA podcast. Even though back in Jordan's day, they did throw the fists and the elbows. Let's put it out there.
That's right.
It was a show to that.
The battle between Michael Jordan and the Detroit Pistons were definitely the early stages of MMA. That was some of the most brutal basketball that ever existed. But you're right. This is an MMA podcast, not a basketball one. So we need to talk about the fight that should have been on the main card but wasn't. Curtis Blaydes, who defeated Alistair Overeem by TKO, elbow to the forehead in round 3.
He earned his last name with those cutting elbows. Oh, my goodness. It was just like slight cut, gushing cut, blood everywhere. I mean, in that fashion. And it was just like, wow. And the pictures that we see of Alistair Overeem afterward, he looked like he got murdered in the ring. I mean, it was brutal.
Yes, you started this off with blood makes the grass grow. It's a wheat field right now. That thing, there was so much blood coming from his head after Curtis Blaydes' elbow landed not once but twice on Alistair Overeem, splitting him open, and the referee was quick to get in there and stop the fight. But the first fight of the main card was Michael the Truth Johnson, which I like this. Michael the Truth Jackson. Michael Jackson defeated CM Punk by unanimous decision. This was a controversial fight, not because of the outcome, but the way Michael Jackson treated CM Punk in the ring. So, it was bizarre the way he was behaving. What are your thoughts on that?
There's two frames of mind that you can take it. What I saw him for the most of the time looking at his corner while continuing to be active. Were there some points where he could have really just went in there and just blew CM Punk out the ring? Yes, but I think there was part of it where people were saying he was showboating, he wasn't taking the fight seriously, and then there was other parts where he wasn't at the level that would qualify him for a UFC card, and he was really looking at his corner while trying to stay active, which is a smart play from what I saw. Because I had to run that fight back about 3 times, and just to see what the controversy was, why Uncle Dana was acting the way he was acting. I mean, it kind of, the Truth spoke on it, and he was like, that Uncle Dana was probably looking for a scapegoat and used him for it. I didn't think that the stuff that Dana was saying was really, honest about it. It almost sounded like that our current president.
Yeah. Okay. All right. But the thing is this, is that when CM Punk started to get desperate, so the fight started off great. CM Punk was always pressing forward. You could tell he didn't have the skill. He started taking a lot of damage. When he got desperate, he began to try to pull guard. That means he was going to the ground, trying to pull Michael Jackson on top of him, and Michael Jackson sat in his guard. And typically a normal guard is whenever you're on your back, your opponent is on top of you, and you wrap your legs around their torso to try to keep them from posturing up and being able to get the leverage they need to throw punches. So CM Punk was executing this very poorly. Michael Jackson could have stood up at any time. But the fact is, he wasn't throwing punches. He wasn't trying to pass guard. He wasn't doing anything. And he was lazily throwing punches at CM Punk while he was looking into his corner, which you just don't see in a professional MMA match. This was an amateur fight at best. This was a playground argument at worst. And I will tell you this, that if Dana White didn't say something, then that I feel like that would be something that would set a precedence for other fighters who outmatched their opponent. So I absolutely agree with Dana White in the fact that Dana White was unhappy with that fight. Michael Jackson should have put CM Punk away. He should have stood up when he had the opportunity, because that's where he had the advantage. And for him not to do that, that means that he is not the level of professionalism that the UFC wants to see on a main card pay-per-view.
I guess we will. I can agree with that. I don't think Dana needs to be as harsh as he was, but you're right. There needs to be a level of professionalism there, and it just wasn't. But it goes to show that this fight, like you said, should have been on the Fight Pass, and should have been on Fight Pass rather than on the main card.
Absolutely.
I know why he did it.
Yes.
I know why he did it, and he did it for the money. And I'm not mad at him for it. I'm not saying he was right.
Right.
I'm just saying I understand.
But the Curtis Blades fight should have been where that fight was. Tuivasa defeated Andre the Pitbull Arlovski via unanimous decision. The Australian looked great. He took a lot of damage, more damage than he's ever taken in his short career. Andre Arlovski looked game, given the fact that he is, late in his career.
Sounds like you're smacking a Masters division.
No. He's still competitive. He's still competitive against the Young Bucks. We're gonna keep him going. Hey, Holly Holm defeated Megan Anderson, ruined her UFC debut by defeating her by unanimous decision. This fight wasn't even close. Holly Holm dominated the much larger Australian in Megan Anderson. I had Megan Anderson last week. I was singing her praises. I was saying that she was going to be the one to just destroy Holly Holm, given her huge frame at 145 pounds, but it was not to be. Holly Holm looked amazing.
It was a complete shutdown. I was impressed by Megan's stature and everything. I mean, Holly went in there and she had a plan, and the plan was you're gonna get beaten however I want you to get beat, and you're not gonna do much about it. And she executed it pretty flawlessly.
Well, the great thing about Holly Holm and what she did in the ring is the fact that Holly Holm has always been a boxer. She's been a kickboxer, a striker. Mm-hmm. What she did to Megan Anderson did a lot to show that she's becoming a more well-rounded fighter. Most of that fight took place on the ground. She was actively taking the larger Megan Anderson to the ground, grappling her, ground and pound, beating her up on the ground, which is something that Holly Holm just 2 years ago, you would not have seen. So I'm super impressed with how Holly Holm has grown as a fighter from just being a striker to adding another wrinkle into her game.
Oh, I agree. I mean, and look at the camp she's coming from, Jackson, Winklejohn. I mean, that camp, it produces phenomenal fighters. It takes what I would consider an average fighter and propels him to an above average athlete. And it takes people like Holly Holm and turn her into a phenom firestorm. And that's what she is right now. I feel sorry for her next opponent.
which her next opponent may very well be Amanda Nunes. So if they can't get the Amanda Nunes-Chris Cyborg fight set up for Madison Square Garden, then it's very likely you're going to see Holly Holm go after the title with Amanda Nunes. Let's go into the next one. Actually, let's skip the next one because I don't want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
You going to make me talk about it?
We're going to talk about it. Come on, get on the couch. Let me break out my pad. Talk about your feelings.
Man, Colby Covington defeated Rafael dos Anjos, man. Now he is the interim welterweight champion.
Yes, the American Wankster actually did it. Yeah.
Like I'm so
bummed. How does that
bummed.
make you feel?
I'm bummed, man. I'm just I'm so mad that Colby Covington won that fight. And not only did he win that fight, but it was a pretty convincing. I mean, his strategy of just pressuring Rafael dos Anjos. So Rafael dos Anjos is a person who pressures other people. You know, he lands big shots. He bullies people. But Colby Covington pushed him against the cage, never gave him a breath, never gave him the distance that he needed to be able to throw big shots. And even though he took Colby Covington down in the third or fourth round, it was never his fight. It was always Colby Covington's fight. It pains me to compliment someone like that because he is such just a bad person that to see someone show excellence with their performance in the ring and then come out with an attitude that is what Colby Covington's persona has become. I'm just gonna let it go.
Okay,
I'm letting it go. Let's see. I'm woosah. I'm grabbing my ears. Woosah.
Yeah, that's right. Earlobes. Okay, let me put 30 seconds on. I might put 45 seconds. Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to take the best parts of this. We're going to put a positive spin on this. Monstrous pressure. I rarely see a dominant performance like Colby Covington did. Not only did he have the pressure, he actually had the cardio to do the pressure, which is really rare because you would think that maybe about the third round he'd be out of it. No, he was still going, and there was nothing there. And RDA does this. He's known for bully pressure, and he didn't have anything to say about it. Okay, now I think that's about 30 seconds worth. Here's my 15 seconds. He's still an American Wankster. Okay, he will never be Chael Sonnen. And if I even see, and now that Tyron, it's going to be Tyron and Slapnuts, everybody's coming out of the woodwork to help Tyron beat him. And Tyron has said that he almost feels like it is his mission in life now as a martial artist to take him out. I won't use the exact words, but that's paraphrased.
Well, let me just say this, and it's going to be my last thing I'll say, and we'll get into the main event. Colby Covington, you are a paper champ. That ain't the real belt. You can say it is, but it's not. To be the champ, you got to beat the champ. You beat somebody who was not the champ. They handed you a belt. Go beat Tyron Woodley. You beat him, we'll call you a champ. That's all I got to say. Robert Whittaker defeated Yoel Romero, the Soldier of God, via split decision in the main event of the evening. Yoel Romero, we got to talk about. Yoel Romero came in overweight. He took his. This is his second time coming in overweight. He said last time that he wasn't going to come in overweight, but he did. He had his 2 hours to try to make weight, and he came in 0.2 over. You have to be exactly 185 pounds to fight for the 185-pound championship. He came in at 185.2. So therefore, this fight versus Robert Whittaker was not for the title. He failed to make championship weight, and therefore people didn't get all that they wanted from this fight.
Okay, I'm glad you brought up that point about the weight, because I know that if anybody watched the weigh-ins, they saw that certain fights, they were going a pound over, certain fights they weren't. That's exactly correct. If you're at that weight, so and in this case, he needed to be at 185 pounds. In other fights, in non-title fights, you can't go over a pound from what I understood of the rule.
That's correct.
Now the story behind him coming in, what is it, point two is like 8 ounces over, not 8 ounces.
No, it's 2.3
ounces.
ounces. It's like 2.3 ounces.
And that, my friend, is a robbery in itself, because they did not give him the full time to do it. It was said that the officials came in about 45 minutes before he was actually supposed to weigh in the second time, and told him that it was off. He cannot weigh in anymore. That, my friend, is a robbery, if I ever saw one. Okay.
Yeah, you know what? You're absolutely right.
And then he still goes in there. And, oh my God, the fight itself. He still won, in my opinion.
Wow.
I think he won. I will say it right here. You know what? I'm iffy about Yoel Romero. He's a genetic freak. He is almost 40 years old, and he's fighting better than most 20-year-olds. Okay, I like him. I like his style. I don't necessarily agree with his philosophy half the time. I do not like the fact that he's kind of raping on most fighters after.
Yeah, there's a lot of kissing and hugging that I don't agree with. But so I scored this fight. I downloaded this app. It's called Verdict. And so it allows you to score in real time the fight. So as the fight happens, it gives you a notification and allows you to score the fight. So here's how I scored the fight. I scored round 1 for Robert Whittaker. I scored round 2 for Robert Whittaker. Incidentally, Robert Whittaker broke his hand in the first round. So he fought the next 4 rounds only punching with his left hand. Okay?
Master. That's hard. That is hard right there.
So I scored the second round for Robert Whittaker because, he was throwing just a wide variety of strikes and kicks and doing a lot of things. That's what I really like about him. He is really a complete fighter. Round 3 was the huge knockdown. This was going to be just Robert Whittaker all the way through, and then Yoel Romero, the soldier of God, bringing down the hammer on Robert Whittaker, knocked him down, changed the whole complexion of the fight, and we thought that we were going to see an end to that fight right then and there. But Robert Whittaker was resilient and was able to make it back through the round. He even threw some punches and some knees to show that he was still in it. I don't know if you scored that a 10-8 round or not. I think maybe some people did, but clearly because Robert Whittaker was still throwing strikes in the midst of Yoel Romero's flurry, I scored that a 10-9 in favor of Romero. The fourth round was back in control of Robert Whittaker, but at the very end, he got rocked again by Yoel Romero, and Robert Whittaker stayed on his feet. I think if he had gone down, if it was a true knockdown, then maybe Robert Whittaker would have lost the round. But because Robert Whittaker was dominating all of the fourth round, got rocked at the end of the fourth round, but didn't go down, I still gave the round for him. That's the pivotal round. So tell me, what did you think about round 4?
Round 4 for me, I thought that was the round I gave. I gave him 1, 2, and 4. I'm sorry, I gave him 1 and 4. Excuse me, 2, 3, 5. That was Yoel to me, because Yoel was he was very methodical in his approach. When he did strike, it was like there was a rocket that was attached to any to his hand, and he went for it. Okay. I think the knockdowns really did matter to me a lot more than it did to maybe the judges. Yeah. And I still say that they need to roll it back one more time. I think they need to roll it back.
I don't think you roll it back. I think Yoel Romero's going to have to take out Jacare Souza or Kevin Gastelum or something like that before he's going to get another shot at Robert Whittaker. He's down 0-2. There's no reason to roll it back for a third time, even though that one was a split decision, very close. Just to tie a bow on this one, Yoel Romero came back in the 5th round, rocked Whittaker, knocked him down. Had a chance to win, but by that point he was gassed out. There was nothing left in the tank for Yoel Romero, and he finished, for me, down 3 rounds to 2. So it was an amazing fight. Clearly fight of the night. They gave both $50K bonuses to Robert Whittaker because Yoel Romero missed weight. It was a sad occasion, I think, for fight fans because it didn't have that championship risk. The belt wasn't a risk. It was basically an exhibition that we were watching that night. So let's close the book on this one. Let's put it on the shelf. UFC 225 is history. Wait. What's that I hear?
Hmm?
You know, it sounds like there's a hype train entering the station.
Uh-oh.
You better get your ticket ready.
Uh-oh.
The Hype Train.
Well, some people call it a bandwagon. We call it the hype train. We're going to look at some of the big names from this weekend and decide whether or not we're on board with these fighters. The first name on the list is Michael the Truth Jackson with a 0-inch reach, a 0-inch kick, still winning the fight against CM Punk. Are you on the Michael Jackson hype train?
Just because it's a one stop, I will say yes, because he broke it down. He was honest about the approach. He was honest about everything through. He is honest on his way out. I can't be mad at the guy. I mean, seriously, I can't be mad at him. I'm on it.
All right. Well, I am not on this hype train. I think that I do believe that he was showboating. I do believe that he was trying to show disdain for CM Punk, while CM Punk is really trying to be a sportsman, to fight. Michael Jackson just showboated, and I'm not down for that. I think it's going to be his last fight in the UFC anyway. There's no reason to be on that hype train. Next question. Next train coming into the station is Tuivasa.
Yeah. I'm gonna call him the Australian Ice Cube, because he's throwing up the W very seriously. Like, he's on this gangster for real. So
Woo.
I would say yes, I'm on his hype train, because he's got the power, he's got skills. He might be the protege that Mark Hunt has been working on for all this time. So, and if that's the case, we have ourselves a hell of a fighter.
Well, I think that he is the second coming of Mark Hunt. He's a little bit bigger, a little bit faster, probably not as decorated, so he's got a little ways to go. I'm going to wait on him. I am not going to get on that hype train, but I do have my eye on him. I'm standing on the platform. Megan Anderson, the giant Amazon woman from Australia, who let us down in her debut, but I felt like she needed a call out. Do you choose to be on her hype train?
For all the wrong reasons. She's about my height. She's an olive skin avatar goddess of Amazon.
Wait, olive skin? Olive skin? That girl is transparent, man.
I mean, she was. Oh, believe me, I was wearing shades when I was watching her fight. But I mean, it was just like, maybe that was it. She was lacking, some vitamin D deficiency that night. And I'll give her two more fights. Let's see where she's standing at.
All right.
I think she's got the goods. She just didn't have it against Holly Holm.
Yeah, I want to see her fight one more time. I'm not going to get on the hype train, but I have been big on Megan Anderson. I think that a fight versus Chris Cyborg that stands up, Megan Anderson probably has a better shot. If Chris takes her down, then I got to see better ground game from Megan Anderson. I felt like I needed to put this one on here. I feel like I already know the answer, but after seeing Colby Covington fight, you gonna punch your ticket? You gonna ride the Express? Chaos Express?
About that, I had to go do a number 2, and I didn't have any toilet paper. Only thing there was a Colby Covington ticket, so,
Hey, I was hoping to catch Colby Covington. I might have been able to push him in front of that hype train. But I'm not getting on it. That is an empty train as far as I can tell. There's no one on the Colby Covington hype train.
Yeah, exactly.
Except for maybe the president and the Secret Service. But we'll see if he actually gets his audience with Donald Trump for winning the interim paper championship. Robert Whittaker, last train in the station.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's a strong fighter. He's willing to fight. He has heart to fight. Okay, I see nothing but good things coming from this man. And God bless this man for bringing more prestige to the heavyweight division.
I hope
he keeps it going.
Middleweight, but
I'm sorry, middleweight.
Yeah.
My bad.
But you are absolutely
fighter,
right.
but-
100% agree with you. Robert Whittaker is a complete fighter. The way he mixed his striking after he broke his hand, started working on his kicks, survived the rushes by Yoel Romero. I can't wait to see what there is next. Punch my ticket. Get me on that train. I'm a Robert Whittaker fan. All right. The trains have left the station. Let's scan the headlines, grabbing attention with Finding the Angles. Finding the Angles. Our segment of headlines, discussion topics, and newsworthy notes worth paying attention to in the MMA world. The first story of the night, Yoel Romero intentionally missed weight. What's your reaction to that? Yeah, yes.
What?
He intentionally
2 ounces.
missed weight. Here we go. So,
Go ahead, tell me that.
okay, all right, here we go. Abe Kawa, his manager, was on the MMA Hour talking to Ariel Helwani, trying to dissect what happened with the weigh-ins on Friday. And so this is what it was, because this is a quote from Abe Kawa. He says the whole plan for this was to be on weight by 11 a.m. So the plan was to be on weight. That was the plan. Once 5 o'clock in the morning came around, Abe Kawa was texted by 3 different people, and these were UFC officials saying, as long as he's within 3 pounds by 11 a.m., they'll give him the 2 extra hours to make weight. So he got with his assistant coach George Lockhart or the coach George Lockhart and said, for whatever reason we need to, let's get those extra 2 hours. Why would we kill our guy trying to get him down that bad, that fast? If we can stretch it out, let's stretch it out. George Lockhart responds, brilliant idea. Let's do it. So the whole plan was to use those 2 hours. So they knew they were going to come in and miss weight. They were going to try to use the 2 hours so that they could give their fighters more time to lose the weight without dropping so extreme, so that he can have more time to recover and be bigger, faster, stronger, the Yoel Romero that we know. So when he went on to say that the official at the New York State Athletic Commission came in during Yoel Romero's cut during those 2 hours and ended it. And there was confusion about when that 2 hour clock started. So had they just gone and tried to make weight right when they were supposed to and not tried to get those 2 hours to get an advantage, Yoel Romero would have been fighting for a championship title. But instead, they tried to get the competitive advantage, got caught, and the rest is history.
Thank you, Uncle Ryan. That was a great story. I'm going to go to bed now. Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
that was a very complete. You had a very nice tone about it. I was like, well, wow. All right. I think this is part of why they're going to stop the early weigh-ins, because of that right there. They shouldn't have gamed the system. They should have went for the hard cut. Really, they shouldn't have to have gone for a hard cut. They should have had I know there was a lot of complaints that they brought in a nutritionist in like that week. Mm-hmm. And that was a very serious mistake. They should have had a nutritionist there from day 2 to help him cut this properly.
Right.
But, it is what it is. They should have did the hard cut. This was a mistake on them.
Well, you alluded to it. The next story of the night is Dana White says the UFC is going back to afternoon weigh-ins, and there is no debate. So, the late weigh-ins are going to be a thing again. And many fighters have said that they prefer the early weigh-ins because rather than having more time to cut, they prefer to have more time to recover. So Al Iaquinta went crazy on social media, calling Dana White all kinds of things, but really accusing him of not caring about fighter safety and fighter health by moving those weigh-ins back to the afternoons so they have less time to recover, and that encourages more fighters to take drastic cuts because they have more time to do so. Your thoughts?
Raging Al is right, but I mean, on the flip side of that, why is this shocking now? Okay, there's several things that could point out to how Dana White truly feels about fighters and about their health. This is just another spoke in the wheel, as far as I'm concerned. I could say that if the fighters like it so much, they shouldn't have tried to game it as much. The good fighters that really liked it, that really kept it, they should have been a more vocal about making sure that fighters do the right thing. Okay, this might be the other argument of, well, maybe you shouldn't have to do a hard cut. Maybe you should fight in a class that when you do a weight cut, it's not as drastic and you're able to compete at a much efficient rate.
Well, that's what they're pushing Yoel Romero to do. Yoel Romero fights at 185 pounds, but given the fact that he's missed weight twice, they're going to be pushing him up to 205, possibly fighting for the light heavyweight championship once we resolve what happens with Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic in July. I wanted to go to this next story. White John Jones put some veiled comments on Twitter. Now, are you familiar with White John Jones?
No, I'm not. That was the John Jones when he got into when Johnny Bones Jones got into the accident, and people were looking to give a lot of heat to John Jones. They ended up giving it to him. Correct?
That is correct. That is White John Jones. So, for those of you who are out there, there is a fighter, a very controversial fighter, probably one of the best fighters ever to walk this earth, and by the name of John Jones. But his Twitter handle is Johnny Bones. Okay, now. Johnny Bones is the fighter who has raised the ire of the Twitterverse and gets all kinds of bad things thrown at him. However, there is a general dude, just random guy, white guy named John Jones, whose Twitter handle is John Jones, spelled the way the fighter's name is. And so people, when they get mad at Johnny Bones Jones, they send hateful tweets to John Jones. And so he's become this MMA sensation, not because of anything that he's done in the octagon, but because of the fact that he is the whipping boy for all the bad things that happened to Johnny Bones Jones.
That's the way I put it.
So here's the thing. He tweeted this out, and it came across my feed, and I just had to talk about it today. He says, but this is before UFC 225. He goes, "I'll be bummed if Colby wins." This is talking about Colby Covington. "What would it be like if the UFC had a champion that was technically a terrific fighter, but was in fact a truly obnoxious person with a personal life that's a huge liability, but is tolerated because he sells tickets? What would that be like?" I was like, wow, that dig at both Colby Covington and Conor McGregor is classic. That is beautiful. Like, I should print that out, frame it, and hang that on a wall somewhere. That is some deep shade right there.
I'm gonna have to follow John Jones, man. He threw some heat there.
That was good.
Tyron Woodley, he threw some smoke. Okay, he threw the smoke out there.
That's right, Papa Smoke.
Wow,
yeah,
he's right.
He's right.
Yeah.
He's right. And now we got two of them. We got Conor McGregor, who is a talented on the mic and talented in the ring, and you got Colby Covington, who's talented in the ring and a bumbling idiot on the mic. Talking about people who are talented in the ring, Ronda Rousey during UFC 225 was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. So that is about it. They have put the bow on Ronda Rousey's career. She is done. She is in the history books as a Hall of Fame fighter for the UFC. Any reactions? Do you have any doubts that she should have been elected to the UFC Hall of Fame?
Me, no doubt at all. I'm happy she's there. She pioneered women's MMA into the UFC. So yes, she's an innovator. All right, and adopting your standards of who should go into the Hall of Fame, I have no problem with her being there because she did innovate women's MMA into the, even though she was not the first fighter to fight. Okay, the first female fighter, she was not. It went to that glory went to two other women who I think they can. Well, I don't even know if they're even still fighting in the UFC. I don't know if they're still on contract or not. But I had no problem. She was a good champion for a run. She was a little one dimensional. It's unfortunate that she couldn't expand her skill set.
Well,
but
yeah.
Thank you for bringing women's MMA into UFC.
Yeah, ultimately, her downfall was that she was lied to. She was an amazing grappler, an amazing submission artist. The arm bar, which was her signature move, and then her coach lied to her and told her she was a boxer. And unfortunately, the fact that she thought she was a boxer and then she met actual boxers caused her to lose her confidence, caused her to lose the fights, her belt, and it just went spiraling down. So, thanks to Coach Edmond, Ronda Rousey is now a professional wrestler. Maybe she would have been the greatest champion of all time in the women's division. The world will never know. Hey, speaking of world not knowing a champion, Colby Covington got into it with Mike. What? Do what?
No, for a person who didn't want to talk about him, you said him 3 times tonight. Okay?
You know what? It's like Beetlejuice, man. Like, my world's going to go freaking to hell now because I've said Colby Covington 3 times. Now I've said it 4. I'm going to have to find some other way. I'm going to have to find a euphemism for his name that I can use on a PG-13 podcast. So, Michael Bisping and the interim paper champ verbally spar in a post-fight interview on Fox. Now, did you see this?
Yes, I did.
So,
and you know what?
Yeah, so what? What you got?
Oh man, I was happy that Bisping actually did it. I'm not a big fan of Bisping. I respect that fighter. I respect that man. I never liked him that much because he was an arrogant side. Okay, at times. However, when arrogance meets wankster, it turns into a beautiful thing. And I was hoping. I wish that Michael was close enough to get a face-to-face, okay? Yeah. That's what I really wanted to see. Let's see what happens.
Absolutely. So, Colby Covington, after every fight, they interview the winners of the fights on the post-fight show. And so, Michael Bisping, who is a former champion, recently retired from the UFC, one of the winningest fighters in the history of the sport, actually not of the sport, but in the UFC. Michael Bisping was an analyst in the studio, and Colby Covington comes on air with his goofy Ray-Bans on, belt on his shoulder, and the first thing he says is, "There's all the haters who didn't think I could do it." I mean, he's throwing barbs at them right whenever he even entered onto the onto the screen, and Michael Bisping jumped on and said, "Hey, listen. If you were paying attention, if you were listening to anything we said prior to, we said that you had a good fight. We thought you did an amazing job, and we thought that you earned that belt. We said good things about you." And Colby Covington continued to throw negative comments their way, continued to call them names, and then Michael Bisping basically had it and just laid into Colby Covington, and Colby Covington deserved every single thing Michael Bisping said. So I don't have any problem with it. I think Colby Covington, if he wants to play I put this on Twitter. I said if Colby Covington wants to be the heel, then he gets to be treated like a heel. If he doesn't want to go and verbally spar with someone who is his superior, then he needs to play nice when he goes on the media. John Anik, who is an analyst and one of the reporters for the UFC, he apologized on behalf of Michael Bisping, saying that the comments were unacceptable and unnecessary. There were a couple of people who felt the same way. I think they're dead wrong. Colby Covington started it. He just couldn't finish it. Michael Bisping won the day.
Exactly. And you know what they expect? They expected Michael Bisping to take the high road on this. No. He's a fighter too.
Yep.
He's a fighter too. Get in there with them and don't let up, because he needs, especially from a champion to a champion. Okay?
To a paper champion.
He needs to hear that. Paper champion. Okay? He still needed that tongue lash and more, in my opinion. Okay? I understand you got this thing going, you got this stick that's getting you, your matches that you want. It got you a nice little belt there, but You need to come with some humility. And we all know it's fake because when it came to Joe Rogan, he backed down real quick. Backed down real quick with an apology. Okay, if that doesn't tell you that
this guy.
That guy.
Yeah. Colby Covington is just fake. Hey, so knocked out
trash.
Knocked out in the prelims. Former champion, former world beater in Sugar Rashad Evans is starting to talk about retirement. He came back after a long layoff, and in his preliminary fight at UFC 223, knocked out, devastating knockout. Do you think this is time for very quick one? Do you think it's time for Rashad Evans to put up the gloves and to call it a career?
Yes. He's done it. He's done everything he wanted to do. There's nothing more to prove with that. Don't Chuck Liddell. Okay, the circle is complete. Let it go.
Yeah, you're saying don't end your career like Chuck Liddell, where you're getting these devastating knockouts time after time.
Well, he got knocked out pretty much in the same way that he knocked out Liddell.
Yeah.
With Liddell, he just high kicked him. Okay, yeah. This guy, he lined him up for a knee, and he, like that. I'm not exactly, trained in MMA, but I saw the knee coming because he was lining him up perfectly for it, and he hit him with it, and that was the game.
There it is.
I'm like, it's the circle is complete.
There, the circle is complete. Talking about new circles, though, John Jones, if he comes back, could be facing the beast in the form of Brock Lesnar, because Brock Lesnar is coming to the end of his WWE contract. According to Dana White, he wants to fight. Very interested in the John Jones. Should John Jones come back from any suspensions that he may or may not have, we could see John Jones versus Brock Lesnar. Both fighters are interested. Dana White's ready to make it happen. What's your thoughts? Is this something you're interested in?
Yes, very much so. It's one of the two hypothetical fights that I can think of right now. The other one being Daniel Cormier versus Yoel Romero. I would pay ringside for that.
All right.
However, Brock Lesnar versus John Jones, I don't think John Jones really knows what he's about to do to himself. Okay, Brock Lesnar is built for war. Okay, there has never been a person that I've seen built like Brock Lesnar that is designed for anything other than hurting people. Okay, John Jones, he's a phenomenal athlete. You're right. He's one of the best to ever do it, if not the best to ever do it. However, Brock Lesnar is designed for war. He's 106-5 people in wrestling. Okay, he's only lost to 5 people, and none of them were John Jones. Okay, trust me, John Jones does not know what he's talking about.
Okay, you know what? I'm there with you, but I will say this: John Jones is a different kind of fighter. This isn't wrestling. This is MMA, and Brock Lesnar doesn't have the striking that John Jones has. Brock Lesnar doesn't have the submission that John Jones has. So if it's a wrestling match, maybe John Jones is in trouble. But if he can stay on the feet, keep that range, this could be the cherry on top of a career that is probably going to go down as the greatest in the history of the UFC. Let's go to one last one. Dana White Tuesday Contender Series is going on right now. Breaking news: Greg Hardy defeated Austin Lane via knockout in round 1. I mean, this dude lands a right hook that just stuns Austin Lane so bad that he was turning around looking for the exit to the cage. And unfortunately, he found a left hook from Greg Hardy that put him on his back, completely out. And Greg Hardy is probably going to get himself a UFC contract. Is this what you wanted?
Yes, bittersweet. It's kind of bittersweet. I mean, we know the history with Greg Hardy, but we got to be better than that. We got to say that everybody deserves a chance to to do better. All right, that was then. This is now. Let's see what he does in the ring. Okay, we've already seen he gives out cold two pieces very nicely. Let's see what he does on the UFC level, because everybody knows, doesn't matter how good you were beforehand, is when that octagon ring is closed and Bruce Buffer is calling your name, everything seems to change for some reason. It's much like matrimony, know.
Right. All right. Well, those are your headlines. One more thing before we go. Nick Newell, who is kind of the fan. The show is a big fan of Nick Newell. He has not fought as of the time of this recording, so we're still waiting for the results of Nick Newell. I'm hoping that he is able to win his fight in dramatic fashion and earn himself a spot on the roster. I think that there are a few fighters who are in regional promotions that deserve his shot at the UFC. So good luck to Nick Newell out there. Let's go into the fight card. All right, the UFC heads to the place of the U.S.-North Korea summit. That is the island city-state of Singapore for Donald Cerrone versus Edwards in the Singapore Indoor Stadium at the city of Singapore. So it's the Singapore Indoor Stadium in Singapore, Singapore. There you go. Where is it? Singapore.
Singapore. They seem to love Cowboy over there. That's like every time they went to China, Cowboy has either been a co-main event or the main eventer. You notice that?
Well, China and Singapore are different, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. My bad. I'm pretty sure I'm going to hear something about that later.
Oh yeah, you're gonna get blown up about that one, man. All of our listeners over in Singapore and Asia are gonna be like, no. Singapore and China, two different.
Yes.
All right, let's look at some of these fights on the card. We'll get some flash fight picks from you. Jessica Evil Eye versus Jessica Rose Clark. This is the Jessica versus Jessica. I got Jessica in this fight.
I agree. Jessica will win in good fashion.
That's right. Lee the Leech Jingliang will fight Daichi Abe. So I don't really have a pick. I've seen Jing Lang fight. Last time I saw him, though, he had like 3 groin strikes, a couple of eye pokes. So I'm not a big fan of his. So I'm going to go with Daichi Abe.
I'm gonna root for the dirty fighter. I'm going for Leech.
Oh man, that guy is a dirty fighter. Go back and watch some of his fights. You're gonna see how dirty he is. Vince St. Preux, OSP, my fraternity brother, gets back in the ring versus Tyson Pedro. I gotta go for OSP. He's a bruh.
I'll go for OSP just because he's that good. Pedro ain't got a chance.
All right, and the main event of the evening, Donald Cowboy Cerrone versus Leon Rocky Edwards in the main event of the evening. Let me just say, Leon Rocky Edwards is a contemporary of Darren Till. Now, when I say contemporary, I don't mean that he is they're in the same line, but they both come from the same city of Liverpool. They both fight in the same weight class. The thing is that Leon Edwards has been trying to fight Darren Till, and the UFC isn't making it happen. So when you can't fight the guy you want to fight, you fight a guy that guy's already beat to show how much better you are than him. So Darren Till knocked out Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Leon Edwards is going to show what he can do versus a similar opponent. Do you have a fight pick?
Honestly, for this one, Donald Cerrone is the only fighter on the UFC roster that I have to say I have to see how he's acting at the weigh-ins. If he's calm, just a serious Cerrone, I will pick Cerrone. But if he's in there and he's jovial and he's happy, he's going to lose.
All right. Well, you heard it there. I'm going to go with Leon Edwards. I love Cowboy Cerrone. I know that KC is not a Cowboy Cerrone fan. I am a big fan of Cowboy Cerrone. Oh, he is not. No. Mainly because of Cowboy Cerrone's, some of his posts kind of turned him off. The Cerrone's following. It's kind of not KC doesn't really jive with the people who follow Cerrone. That's okay. I like Cowboy Cerrone. I like his mentality of him fighting anywhere, anytime. You just call him up, put a contract in front of him, and he will fight. I like that about him. Everything else aside, I like the fact that he is a fighter's fighter. But I think Leon Edwards is just, he is of the same cloth that Darren Till is cut from. I think that he's going to put it to Cerrone and really press the issue that he deserves to fight Darren Till. So I've got Leon Edwards. You've got wait and see.
Yes, I have to put wait and see. But it might, in all fairness, I'm going to choose Cerrone. Okay?
All right.
I'll give it to him. Just because the guy's cut from the same cloth, it could be the bad edge. Okay? It could be that edge.
Nice.
All right, so that's all I'm saying.
All right. Well, that is our show. Follow us on social media. On Twitter, I'm at CST Ryan.
And I am at Keys to Victory, and that's Keys with an ES to Victory on Twitter and Instagram.
Very nice. KC is at CST_KC, but you're better luck finding him on Instagram at Push Pull Pray. You can check out our website at www.combatsportstalk.com, and you can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Facebook, and Instagram. We have merchandise. Check us out on Amazon. All you have to do is search for our podcast name, Combat Sports Talk, and we've added a new section on the website for live events. I got to sit with the champ, the Muay Thai champ in Fort Worth, which is George G. Money Stallworth. We got to hear a little bit about his fight. We got to hear about fighting at your walk-around weight and why you don't want to do that. So I'll be uploading UFC 225 live event very soon. Check that out and hear some interesting discussion with Mr. Stallworth. Our theme music is composed by Scott McCurry at scottdeancountry.com. Casey Onyebuchi produced our lead-in. I want to thank you for joining us for another edition of Combat Sports Talk. For John Keys, I'm Ryan Smith, reminding you to keep your hands up, your chin tucked, and throw bombs.